Right guys, so we're going to be doing the painting for our lighthouses today. You should have done your sketch already with the placements of your lighthouse and already planned what you should be doing. Our three options are going to be a sunset or sunrise, a dark stormy night, and then also a galaxy. So you're going to start off with your sketch. You should have your drawing already and you're going to work from there.
You are the peace in my troubled sea. In the silence you won't let go.
So the first one that we're going to be working with is the sunset or sunrise one. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with some bright related colors. So some yellows, orange, reds, all colors that are close to each other on the color wheel. And I'm going to start by painting around my lighthouse, from the lighthouse to the end of the paper. Okay, and I'm going to start with some really nice bright yellows, which are gradually going to go into orange, and then it's going to go into pink and purple and a little bit of blue towards the top. So when I started painting, I actually forgot to put water first. Ha 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 ha. So try and paint with water first so you get that wet on wet effect, and then you're going to add your colors gradually to that so that they bleed into each other and run into each other really nicely, creating that beautiful natural effect the way that it would look for a real sunset or a real sunrise. And what you want with this effect is that you want the colors to really run into each other, and the way that you do it is by adding a little bit of water and then dabbing. So I know what you guys are doing right now, not that dab like poke with your brush. You'll see what I'm doing here is I'll do some brush strokes mainly with the water, but when I add paint I sort of just go like poink 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 in a spot. There, you see I'm doing it there, poink 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 poink. And then it spreads because of the water. It spreads to where there's more water, and so you do that so that it creates that more natural effect. Also, it's cool to watch.
I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore.
Key thing over here is to make sure that you use colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Because if they run into each other and they're not next to each other, they're opposite each other, then you get really stiff colors, or colors that are complementary colors like red and green, not friends with running into each other. So make sure that you use the right color combinations. Then at the end, I sprayed hand sanitizer onto it, and then created that cool little like cloudy kind of effect. So we can do that as well if you want to. Finally, a use for hand sanitizer. And then last thing, I'm doing some water on the bottom again, so we're using that wet on wet technique, and then I'm doing the water reflecting the sunset or sunrise, whatever it is, and I want to use similar colors so that it looks like it's a bit of a sunset, so that it looks like it's reflecting what's happening in the sky on the water at the bottom.
I will follow you home, my lighthouse, my lighthouse. I will trust the promise. To shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore.
Then once that is dry, I'm going to be adding a layer of white to show the light shining from the lighthouse. It's going to be quite opaque or see-through, so you'll still be able to see the beautiful colors below it. If you want to make it thicker and darker, like a brighter light, or even if you want to make it yellow, like more of a white yellow color, then you're welcome to do that, but you have to wait for it to be dry. So we're going to be layering that on top.
In my troubled sea.
Then for this one, for the lighthouse, we're actually going to do a silhouette. So it's going to be all black, so that it looks like the lighthouse is standing with all the light behind it. So you can't see any details, you can't see any color, it's just like a black shadow. So we're going to paint that on. We can also use markers if you want to. I used black acrylic drawing ink over here because I was feeling brave, but I think we'll probably use markers and black watercolor paint when you guys are doing it. And you're just going to literally paint over all of those sections with that black to create that beautiful silhouette. You can leave a couple of white spots open just for a bit of contrast so that it doesn't look too flat, but that is also up to you. Right, now this one is going to be our stormy sea one. And what we're going to do for this is some serious wet on wet. We are doing wet on wet all over the place for this project. This one we're doing the water with a little roller sponge thingy because it's going to create a rougher texture for the water. So I'm going to go over the whole thing with a sponge that's just got water on it. I'm going over my lighthouse and everything because it's going to give it that rougher feeling, and it's easier to do this than it is to paint around the lighthouse. Okay, then I've also drawn my ship on with a black crayon. You can do a ship if you want to, you don't have to. And you can see now as I'm busy doing the water and the waves and the sky and everything, I'm using blues, dark blues, purple and black, lots and lots of black. Don't be too scared of black. Black's a wonderful color to chuck in, and it's going to create that beautiful stormy effect by adding the black in there as well.
Fire before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storms. Fire before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storms. Hey! Fire before us, you're the brightest.
And once my painting's dry, I painted my lighthouse with white watercolor paint, and then I'm painting on top of the white. I'm doing red drawing ink for the red spots on the lighthouse. That white will make the red stand out really nicely, and I'm using quite a flat small brush to get those nice lines in there. The ship is hanging on there, and I've also added some white lines for the lighthouse, and also just some swirly lines for the ocean to make it look a little bit rougher. Right, and then on top of my first layer of watercolor paints that I did, I'm now doing wet on wet again, but on top of the layer, because I want the water to be darker than the sky, and I want it to look a bit more stormy and a bit rougher. So again, I'm doing water first, and then I'm dabbing those colors onto the water parts that I've got on the paper, so that those colors bleed into each other and blend, so that it doesn't look like lines, it just looks like colors flowing naturally into each other.
Will lead.
Very important when you're doing this wet on wet technique and you're busy dabbing the colors on top is that you really load your brush with color. So you don't just like poink it into the color, you really rub it, you give it a good swirl, you don't kill it. It's not a WWE wrestler, it's a little ballerina color in the paint, so that when you dab that paint into the wet spots on your paper, that the color really flows. If you don't see color flowing, it means that you don't have enough paint on your brush, and you need to load it up a little bit more so that it's going to be more effective on your artwork.
See my lighthouse, shining in the darkness. I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore. Tomorrow brings. With each morning I'll rise and sing. My God's love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa, you are the peace in my troubled.
Right, so then my last little touches, I'm just doing some white crests on those waves and doing some more white in the water where I want to add some movement, and then obviously the white here for the light that's shining out. And then once I've finished that, what I did was I took some charcoal. You can also use a crayon or something else, and I just outlined my lighthouse, and then I shaded the one side to just make it look a little bit rougher and a little bit darker. And so I shaded on the side, and then I just smeared that charcoal over to the whole lighthouse so that it's actually a bit more gray and a little bit more murky looking, which is the effect that I was going for. Right, and then our last one, the galaxy. So you've got your sketch ready, and again, wet on wet. And the big thing that you want to do with this one is that you want to have it really dark on the outside, and you want to sort of one little irregular white patch on the inside that's much lighter. And again, you want to have as few solid lines as possible. You want all the colors to bleed into each other and to form those organic looking shapes rather. So you're going to start off by sort of making a center, like a big oval shape, and then you work around that, dabbing, lots of wet on wet, lots of water first, and then you'll see those colors spread into your wet parts. And once again, you want to use related colors that are close to each other on the color wheel, and then you want those colors to bleed in. You want to use a lot of black. What I did with this one is I did one layer that wasn't so dark, and then I added another layer on top. But if you add quite a lot of black right from the beginning with your colors and you make it really dark, especially on the edges of your page, then you might be able to get away with only doing one layer for this. For this one, I painted around the lighthouse, and I'm actually going to leave this lighthouse to create a stark black and white, like monochromatic thing, to contrast my galaxy that I'm going to do on the most of the page. That's going to be a lot of bright colors and very beautiful. So yeah, you can give that a try, or you can do a combination of different projects. You can do the lighthouse from the Stormy Sea one, and then you can do the plain black and white lighthouse from the galaxy. With a different one, you can decide how you want to mix it up and match it if you want to. You don't have to copy any one style.
In the silence you won't let go. In the questions your truth will hold. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa, you are the peace in my troubled sea. My lighthouse.
Right, and then I ended up putting another layer on. So here it is more wet on wet with lots of black, dark colors, dabbing those colors into the wet spot so that they spread around. And then once this whole layer was done, and I'd left it to dry, which took super long, but anyway, once it was dry, then I could add the stars. And for that I used quite a hard brush with liquid tempera on it, and I just flick. And sometimes when the blobs were a bit weird, I just extended those lines to make little stars. And that's what we did over there. And once all of those stars were flicked on nicely and then they're dried, then what I did was I took my black acrylic drawing paint, and then I just outlined my lighthouse, and I just gave that a little bit of shading on the side, but I kept it very simple, and I didn't actually add a lot of color or any detail to it. I left it quite plain.
My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore.
Right, so you are going to decide what sort of sky you're going to do. If you're going to do a galaxy, if you're going to do a sunrise or sunset, or if you're going to do a whole stormy sea vibe. And then for your lighthouse itself, you can decide if you want to do a simple monochromatic one that's just black and white with a little bit of shading, like this one with the galaxy. Or if you want to, you can do the silhouette, like the sunrise, sunset one was, where it's just black. Or you can do the one where it is red and white, like the classic lighthouse, with maybe a bit of charcoal shading on the side. And then you can also decide if you're going to paint the light coming from the lighthouse, or if you're just going to leave it as if it's not on at that moment. Right, good luck guys. I'm sure you're going to have lots of fun doing this, and I'm looking forward to seeing your projects.